chapter 4, verses 7 through 10. It's on page 1724. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up.
There was one more thing I did want to talk about before we get into our message. I forgot to announce there will be a National Day of Prayer event at Max Square on May 7th, Thursday. So please do be a part of that as well. Let's come together and be a part of that. All right. This week, I want us to investigate the opportunity to submit to God. It's an opportunity to soften our heart, to understand what he wants from us, who he is. It was very interesting to me as I've been thinking about this for a little while. How in the world am I ever going to talk about submitting to God? And then downtown here, I came to a yield sign. And there was somebody going to go in front of me. And the yield sign was for me. I needed to wait for them. In other words, obey the law and allow that person to go first. And then as I was going up to Wallowa County yesterday, I hit one of the passing lanes on Hamburger Hill. And so as you're going along and this person's passing you and you need to scoot over, who's got the right of way? That person. Because my arrows are pointing this way. That means I need to yield. Fine, 2 days in a row. But as I'm coming back from Wallowa County, I hit the next passing lane at Alisel. That one is so messed up. Because who's supposed to yield on that one? The person passing. Because the arrows come into my lane. And you know what? Nobody that's passing you is going to yield. Give way. As we investigate what it means to submit to God, the act of yielding our very being and purpose to our Creator. Why have we been created? Why did God create mankind? What a headache we must be. And yet, that is not how he sees us. He sees us with loving eyes. He sees us as somebody that can be served. Does God serve us? He has. When did God serve us? When did Jesus wash feet? He served. He became the lowest servant. He washed feet. Now, does that mean we take advantage of God? I don't know that we can. But my mind might go there. How do I submit to him? This submission requires an attitude of humility and servanthood. How many of us feel humble often? Especially if we're in a relationship that might be a little tough. It's hard for us to be humble. It requires an attitude of humility and servanthood, attributes looked down on in our society as weakness. If you have ever tried to exercise humility or kindness, you realize how truly difficult it can be. Often these actions receive looks of suspicion and doubt. In other words, what do you want? What's it going to cost me? So, we do our best to be humble. I've been around a few Christian men that one person in particular at a board meeting always tried to say, I'm the lowliest of low, and yet he had the biggest attitude. He shot himself in his own foot because he was not, in his own mind, the lowliest of low. He tried his best to get his way and push his way through. When we come along, people that would like to know Christ, do we have an agenda? And if we do, whose agenda is it? Is it my agenda or God's agenda? Does he say to come rolling in and roll over the person? Or does he say to come in humbly and lowly and as a servant? To provide a service for them? To be that heart that listens? To be humble? God, the sovereign Father, requires and commands us to bend to his will, to have one God only, and to serve God one God. Are we willing to do that? Of course we have one God, one sovereign God, of whom is God over everything. And unfortunately, we can make our own gods. In Exodus 23-4, it says, "You shall have no gods before me." First commandment. And the second one is much like that. "You shall not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below." What is taking up the most of your time? That's your God. Unless you place that in God's hands and say, "Show me what you want me to do in this." Then it becomes his and no longer our possession. What do you consider you own? If you make it as simple as simply this, your next breath. Can you control your breathing? You can slow it down or you can speed it up and you can stop it for about a minute, but after that, nature takes over and you can no longer control your breath. For Christians, these two commandments are straightforward and direct. God would require absolute submission of us as we live this life here on earth. Absolute submission. It's a commandment. We don't have a choice. If we are to follow God through Christ by the Spirit, we are to submit, yield, be vulnerable. Turn your hands up, not out, up. Vulnerable. Place in my hand what you want me to do. Turn your heart up, not within. Give of yourself. It seems pretty simple, and yet it can be very difficult. Realizing the total commitment required of us comes with the first breath after baptism. You remember being baptized? A lot of you were children when you were baptized. Those of us, and I believe that you had a significant moment. I'm not playing that down. But I know at my baptism, when I first came out of the water and took my first breath, and the minister said to me, "The old life has passed, and the new life has come." As I took that breath, I realized I no longer am myself. And I fought that. Even though baptized, even though receiving the Spirit, I fought that for a long time. Giving up control. Complete control. I fight it still today, of course. But then, a lot. Until he finally chipped away who I thought I was and helped me find my true self. Your servant. Hearing the words, "the old life has passed away and the new life has come," still brings chills to me. Every time I baptize somebody and I say those words, I feel those words in my own heart, remembering the time that I was baptized. We, like the Israelites coming out of Egyptian slavery, were once wandering in the wilderness. Before we knew Christ, we were wandering in the wilderness. How many feel that we are still wandering in the wilderness today? You are not. I'm going to put it as bluntly as I can. You are no longer wandering in the wilderness. You have been put on a path. God has a plan. He is in control. Yes, you can turn left or right, forward or backwards. You can even stop. But eventually you will yield and give in to that path, that plan, that agenda, because you are no longer in the wilderness. What happened to the older generation of the Israelites in the wilderness? They died in the wilderness. But the next generation that came, those that come to know God and yield to God and submit to God, after 400 years of slavery, walking around that mountain for 40 years, came to know God and his love and salvation for them. One generation. Think of how long it takes for families to get out of a harmful place, harmful habits, harmful whatever they are, and to finally come into a place where they are productive and loving and caring. It takes a lifetime of lifetimes to come up out of something so low that they can be something useful. We have been there. We understand it. They are in the wilderness. And yet when they come to know Christ, they slowly work their way out of the wilderness and come into the promised land. We are guaranteed the promised land. Where is it? Heaven. But we are not walking around the mountain getting edges knocked off of us. We are already there. Paul says in Romans, somewhere, might not be Romans, but Paul says, wow, live out your salvation today. We are in our salvation right now. And yes, it's a little blurry. But when we sit down and are quiet and allow God to minister to us, then we come to understand. God, why did God bring the law to the Israelites? So that they could understand what sin was. Before the law, they did not know what sin was. But when he brought them the law, he showed them this is right, this is wrong. Then they come to understand what sin was, and God said, sin, its penalty, its reward is death. Not physical death, soulful, spiritual death. Can you imagine how they felt about that? After all of those sacrifices, out of all of that bloodletting, out of all of that that had happened through their traditions, and all of a sudden a man came along and said, I will be the last sacrifice. How many generations that people have lived through since they had the first 10 commandments, have lived through all those laws and sacrifices, and now there was going to be one? And yet it should not have been a surprise to them because it had been prophesied. They were told, one will come. And they knew that the Messiah was coming. But they did not understand why. They had not fully submitted to God. Understanding the law brought a realization of what sin was and the penalty of death. Because of God, because of who God is and his great love for us, we realize his commitment to us and our well-being. He is committed to us and our well-being. We always seem to think, I need to be committed to God. And we do. But we forget the other side of that. He is also committed to us. And how do we know that? He gave his son for us. He gave the ultimate sacrifice. We no longer are under the penalty of death when we choose Christ. What kind of a God is that? No other God in the world, no other God in the world will sacrifice itself for its people. It requires sacrifice from its people. That's the difference. He provided a sacrificial system for the Israelites that they might know forgiveness. He provided a way of forgiveness so that they would know it. They could not earn it. They could not buy it. It seemed unattainable. And yet he said, no, because I love you, because I desire a relationship with you, here is a way to understand forgiveness. This is the God who demands us to worship only him. He reveals his great love by graciously showing us his will. Do we know God's will for our life and the lives around us? Are we participating in that will? Do we own that will? Does it become our only focus for our life? Some days, for me, some days not. Did I just go dead? If we are struggling in our life, we must be quiet and listen for the will of God to be revealed anew. His will never changes, but my way of hearing it changes. Some days it's very clear. Some days it's very muddled. Some days I don't hear it at all. But that's all on me. But God says, be still. All mankind, since the beginning of time, has known there's a God. How do I know this? How can I prove this? Well, Solomon, when he became king, asked for one thing. Do you know what that was? Wisdom. He asked only for wisdom. When we want to know the will of God, do I need to change mics? Getting a lot of feedback. When we want to know the will of God, we must ask for wisdom. And he will provide that wisdom, but wisdom takes knowledge. And the act of wisdom is discernment. So we must tie the three together, but that takes what from us? A huge effort. Are you willing to invest in the effort? To first read the Bible, ask God to interpret it for you that you might have understanding, and then to ask the Spirit of God to help you put it to work. Three things that we must do to understand and activate the will of God. In Ecclesiastes 3:9 it says, "What do workers gain from their toil? What if we as workers have gained from our toil?" Typically when we work, we expect a paycheck. When we work at the church, there is no paycheck. There's no monetary paycheck. And yet, we are hoping to gain something out of our work here. Relationships, fellowship, whatever that is. Feeling good about what we're doing. To expend energy and spiritual fruit. To look at that way. What do workers gain from their toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the heart of men. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning to the end. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live. That each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in their toil. This is the gift of God. Earlier we read in James about verse 9, and James says, "Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning and your joy to gloom." What about two opposite scriptures and verses? One Old Testament, one New Testament. The Old Testament said, Solomon says, God has put the weight of eternity on you, on all mankind. All mankind knows there is no room for ignorance, no excuses. Looking at the world and at creation, we have to know that there is something much bigger than ourselves. And in that, then we start to wonder, what is that? Who is that? Then we really start to wonder, why us? Why did he create us the way we are? And then here in James it says, "Submit yourselves then to God and resist the devil." Did you know we can resist the devil? How do you resist the devil? You know God's word, and you use it for a sword. We have one offensive tool in the chest. The rest of them are defensive. We can use the sword of God, the word of God, to divide truth and false. But we have to know the word in order to use it. Because, I hate to admit it to myself right now, but Satan knows God's scriptures better than I do. He is fully versed and he loves to deceive. Because he knows he can. He can bring a verse to me and turn it sideways. He knows my weakness. But so does God. And in my weakest place, he finds his greatest strength. Because when I am my least, he is the strongest because he brings his word to light in me and gives me the ability to cut away the deception. Come near to God and he will come near to you. God is always there. He's always around us. He's always in us and through us. He's always there, no matter what's going on around us. When this says come near to him, it simply means recognize God, embrace God, speak with God, and he will do the same with you. He's still speaking, he's always embracing, he's always loving. But this means recognize it. Put everything else aside and choose only him. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Put all that aside. And when it says grieve, mourn, and wail, what it is like David, King David, went through terrible times in his life, and he would literally cry out to God, yelling and screaming and mourning and wailing. I can't do that here because it really disturbs us. But to think about that, the loudest noise you can make in distress. I heard somebody scream yesterday in distress. Yes, I'm laughing around it. God won't laugh. Put those things away. What God is saying to us, he says, wash your hands of the world. And you sinners, purify your hearts. Get the worldly thoughts out of your hearts and replace it with godly thoughts. And you double-minded. Quit thinking of the world as your God and think of God as your God. God created this for the benefit of this and the glory of him. Put that in our mind. Put the rest of it to rest. Seeking God and his kingdom causes the devil to flee. When we seek the Father's truth, Satan can no longer deceive us. When we are in the Word and seeking God's truth, Satan can no longer deceive us. In Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Are your paths straight? If they're not, why not? What are you leaning on to get your paths straight? Putting the world aside and seeking the very will of God takes a huge faith step. Yielding to the Father who knows all and sees all and is purely good sets us free from slavery, free from ungodly chains. By humbly laying aside our pride and worldly thoughts, our Father can share his truth about all things, and we can receive it and truly live for him. We must invest in him as much as he is invested in us. And the way we do that is in Romans 12. I'll end with this. Therefore, I urge you, brothers, sisters, and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. When we give everything that we are back to God in worship, not because he's judging us at that moment, but because he's loving us at that moment. When we sacrifice ourselves, become under him, to submit fully, to yield fully, to surrender fully. Oftentimes we have to get to our lowest point to get there. And he welcomes us. No matter where we are in life, he welcomes us back to himself. As we prepare to sing our song of invitation, it's not just a song of coming forward and joining the church. This is a song of understanding our heart and where it's at today. Are we submitting? Are we yielding? Are we surrendering? The things that are most important to us. The relationships that are the most important to us. Are we giving those back to God? And listen to what he has to say about that. I encourage you to come forward. If you'd like to rededicate your life, if you like, and you don't have to come forward, to have somebody pray with you. Our elders would love to pray with you somewhere here in this building, or even have a cup of coffee. But it's up to you to make that move. So let's sing our song of